Hi, my name is Arminda Roddy, and I'm here today doing my presentation for Communications 542. I apologize that the video quality is not great and that I'm presenting on this small screen. The weather has caused me to be snowed in, and so I was not able to get a hold of an audience in a big screen. My husband is my audience, and he is also the videographer, and so he is not seen in this video. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the topic that I'm going to be talking on today is the transition of the English culture to Christianity from paganism. And in that, I want to be able to understand where English culture began religiously and where it ended up. I also want to explain why the English people chose to transition from paganism to Christianity. I want to exemplify the literature and artifacts that show today that that transition occurred and the reasons why. And then I'd also like to explain how this shows ministry even in the earliest days of the Christian faith. So in the beginning, the shift of the English culture was from the pagan perspective into the Christian perspective, and this was with the Druidic culture, the very beginnings of England and Britain. A lot of what they believed was kind of along the same lines as Norse mythology, that sort of thing. Instead of heaven with Christianity, you would have Valhalla, that sort of thing. And the cultural shift kind of started to occur into Christianity as Rome began to take over the British territories. So I took this quote from an article that was giving me this information, and the quote says, "Social conditions in Rome and dissatisfaction with the corrupt Roman government left many peasants in search of a spiritual fulfillment that was lacking in Roman religious institutions." So even Rome in and of itself was not strictly Christian at this time. They were still talking about gods and goddesses, things like that. And as a result, there were some people struggling to find their spiritual center and that sort of thing. And they found themselves looking for more spiritual grounding. And many of them found that in the Christian faith. So as a result, not only Romans, but the Druidic people were also making that transition. So this artifact right here, I'm sorry you can't see it very well, is actually a piece of an Anglo-Saxon headstone. It was supposedly found in the same grounds where there was a Christian monastery that would have been a part of the Anglo-Saxon culture. Again, evidence that they made that transition from the pagan culture. One thing about the stone that you can't really see it on the video is the letters F-R-I-T-H. That is supposedly common with Anglo-Saxon names, is the frith word as a part of that. And like I said, they believe that it was a part of an Anglo-Saxon Christian monastery, one that started a certain gospel, and that gospel was started by King Oswald in 653 AD. So I want to talk, I'm an English teacher, and so of course I'm going to connect this to literature. So I wanted to connect it mainly to Beowulf, because Beowulf was one of the founding pieces of English cultural literature, additionally coming from the Anglo-Saxons specifically. And it is believed that it was based on an actual person. So one thing that there is prevalent in Beowulf is this idea of God as the protector. We see this specifically in the battle with Grendel's mother. If you know anything about Beowulf, he fights 3 different demons. Grendel, he kills him. Grendel's mother is the next. She's trying to get revenge, and then he fights a dragon. And in the battle with Grendel's mother, he supposedly at one point says, "I would have never gotten through this battle without God by my side." And so that is one thing. Now, a contrast to this is the idea that the protection must be earned. According to the gospel, that's not entirely true from the standpoint that the gospel says that if you accept Christ into your heart, then you earn your place into heaven. And earn is even not a great word for that, because it's more about God is giving us a gift, the gift of his son. But we also have to keep in mind that Christ at this point might not have necessarily been crucified yet. And so it would make sense that maybe they still believed in this whole concept of earning that protection. In the same token, I think that that represents that transition from the standpoint that it is conducive with Norse mythology and Valhalla, the warrior culture, that you must earn your place in Valhalla in the way that you fight in battle. So it would totally make sense that he would believe that as well, along with the general population. Another thing that you see is the idea of humility versus pride. At one point, Hrothgar, who is the king that Beowulf is fighting for, tells him that he must accept his glory and his fame with humility, because pride is the tragic downfall. And in literature, we call pride hubris. It's the quality of hubris. We also see the teaching of humbling yourself before Christ in the Christian faith. So that's another thing that all kind of goes together there. I would share this video, but I have since discovered the audio is not great. However, when I submit the video, you are welcome, in the presentation, you're welcome to look at it. The video is a depiction from a 2007 version of Beowulf. It's a scene from the film where basically Beowulf is talking about the Christ child being born, and how the Christ child has actually taken away the warrior culture. And while not everybody would have been quite as, for lack of a better way to put it, disgusted with the whole concept of Christ and the fact that it's more about humbling yourself as opposed to pride, that there again shows that transition from paganism into Christianity. More people kind of latched onto that at that point, and we saw the warrior culture, the concept of earning your way into Valhalla and expanding on your pride, kind of falling to the wayside to a certain extent. We still, though, even see that today. So how does this relate to ministry? I think it's prevalent to say that the Church of England still exists today. That is proof that that transition occurred, and that even in those earliest days, obviously, because that church is existing now, there was some kind of ministry, something to minister to people's hearts that made them want to convert to Christianity. And so the Church of England is actually in two divisions. There's one in the south in Canterbury, and then one that exists in the north, which is in York. And then the last thing I'd actually like to say is just a verse from 2 Peter 3:8. It says, "But do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." And basically this just speaks to the timelessness of Christianity and the influence that it had on people, even in the foundations of the world, just as Christ was being born. Which there again speaks to the transition that occurred from paganism into Christianity, and also to the fact that Christ is still influencing people even now. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this presentation.